When Lionel Messi first set foot on French soil as a Paris Saint-Germain player, the entire world froze in anticipation of a grand show. Thousands of fans, forgetting about their own safety, filled the narrow streets near the airport, trying to catch a glimpse of the new idol, whose name was already inextricably linked with the legendary Barcelona. Hundreds of cameras recorded his every step, as if he were not just a footballer, but an astronaut who had returned from deep space with amazing secrets. But the secrets that Messi brought with him to Paris were not about uncharted planets. They were about how quickly and ruthlessly the fate of even the biggest star in the world of football can change, and about the high price one has to pay for luxury and iconic status. From the first days of his stay in the luxury hotel, where he was given the presidential suite, Messi felt the onslaught of a world alien to him. Yes, there was exquisite furniture around him, a personal butler ready to satisfy any whim, and an impeccable view of the Eiffel Tower. However, the dazzling shine of new opportunities turned out to be only a screen covering up difficulties that he did not expect. In Barcelona, everyone knew and loved him as a symbol of the club and loyalty. In Paris, everything was different. He was instantly elevated to a pedestal, but this elevation also meant even more attention from the press, fans, and competitors. Every gesture, every word instantly became news. Journalists tried to find even the most insignificant contradiction in his behavior, in order to fan the flames of a scandal and increase circulation. The Argentine genius was used to the fact that in Spain he could hide in his house, escaping from the flashes of cameras behind a high fence, but Paris lived and breathed noise around the clock. Just a week after his arrival, the paparazzi figured out the exact address of the mansion that Messi and his family had chosen with such care for privacy. It seemed that a real siege had begun behind the luxurious walls, with secret rooms and panoramic windows. Photographers sat at the gates, fans waited at the neighboring houses, lying in wait for every car leaving the yard. But even more difficult was the psychological pressure from the rivalry within the club itself. PSG is a team made up of world-class stars, where many players are used to considering themselves first violins. Behind the scenes, there was talk that now they should play for Messi, because he is the greatest in the world. 6 Ballons d'Or speak for themselves. But some, especially from the younger generation, did not want to agree with this. Kylian Mbappé, the rising superstar of French football, saw Messi not only as a teammate, but also as a potential rival for the leadership. Tensions sometimes hung in the locker room, which coach Mauricio Pochettino tried to smooth over, but rumors of conflict still leaked into the press, acquiring new details. At these moments, the Argentine began to remember the Camp Nou, Barcelona's home stadium, where the walls seemed to breathe with his glorious moments. There, the stands had been chanting his name since time immemorial. There, every corner reminded him of the great path he had taken with the club. Here at PSG, everything was different. Big ambitions, crazy money, strict discipline, and constant expectations of quick results. Lionel felt like he was in a golden cage, a luxurious one, but still a cage. He left the game with a smile for the crowd, but inside he felt homesick, longing for the warm Catalan sun and the feeling that every fan was part of a single family. The first home games at the Parc des Princes were played to thunderous applause. Paris saw Messi as an opportunity not just to win the Ligue 1 title, but also to finally ascend to the European throne by winning the Champions League. Yes, Neymar and Mbappé had been here for a long time, but the arrival of the Argentine was supposed to be the missing piece in the puzzle of championship ambitions. However, a football pitch is not the stage of a Hollywood blockbuster, where one hero saves the day. It takes time, it takes teamwork, and most importantly, it takes psychological harmony. At first, it seemed that Messi was suffocating in this whirlwind. Everything was too new, too much information noise surrounded his every action. Over time, the situation began to stabilize, but unexpectedly, details of Messi's contract leaked to the media. French publications were exaggerating data on his annual salary, bonuses, tax breaks, and other details. The country was split into two camps. Some were happy that such a star was playing in France, while others were outraged that millions of euros were being paid to a foreigner, while the social sphere and economy were going through difficult times. Lionel, who always preferred modesty, felt a stab in the back. Someone from inside the club was ready to leak this information for their own benefit. The Argentine lost trust in both the management and his entourage. It seemed that there were no people left around with whom he could talk frankly without fear of being betrayed. This alarming situation also affected the relationship with the coach. Pochettino, although also an Argentine, simultaneously kept in mind the demands of the Chiconers, fans, and the press. He needed to show results, and he increasingly demanded that Messi play, even when he did not have time to recover from minor injuries. Soon, behind the scenes, they began to whisper that the club was afraid of the discontent of sponsors, because contractual obligations included, according to rumors, not only sporting success, but also media activity. Messi became a hostage to his own name. His presence on the field meant high broadcast ratings, successful marketing campaigns, global interest in PSG as a mega project. But he himself thought about only one thing: how to return to what really made him happy, pure football, without politics, without loud headlines, and without the constant pursuit of sensations. At the moment when the tension reached its peak, an event occurred that no one expected. In one of the key matches against Marseille, Messi was given a sharp foul. He fell, cried out in pain, and the Argentine was on the field, clutching his left ankle. The stadium froze in fear, because everyone knew that any serious injury could put Lionel out of action for a long time, and with him all the club's hopes for the next trophies. The medical team ran out to assess the injury. Meanwhile, the cameras continued to film Messi's face close-up, and the whole world saw more than physical pain in his eyes. It was a mixture of disappointment, fear, and a certain realization. He realized that he could lose everything he had acquired at Barcelona, what he had once fought for, and even what he had come here for: the opportunity to once again show greatness. Fortunately, the diagnosis was not so dramatic. A couple of weeks of rest, special procedures, training without a full load. But it was during these 2 weeks that he realized how important it is to have real support around you. Unexpected allies appeared. Neymar, with whom Messi played back in Barca, came to his home, arranging a family dinner. The Brazilian told how difficult it was in the first years after the transfer from Spain, when he himself faced similar problems: pressure, huge amounts of money, constant attention to his personal life. Neymar shared that he learned to find joy in basic things: walks in Paris at night, playing board games with friends, going out of town together. All this helped him maintain his love for football, despite the weight of his status. Meanwhile, rumors began to circulate behind the scenes that Xavi, the new Barcelona coach, was still trying to bring Messi back to the Camp Nou. Journalists competed to be the first to report the breaking news about secret negotiations, a possible salary cut, and sponsors willing to pay any amount to bring the legend back. Social networks were in full swing. Every Barca fan wrote comments calling for "Come home, Leo." Organizing flash mobs and posting clips of Messi's best goals at the Catalan club. The Argentine himself tried not to react to this publicly, but when he looked into the eyes of his children, he wondered, what was the point of all this luxury if there was no peace and sense of belonging that had been part of his life for 2 decades? Time passed, Messi recovered and played at full strength again. Fans rejoiced at his graceful passes, dizzying dribbles, and the media wrote about his rebirth in Paris. But he himself could no longer close his eyes to the fact that everything had not turned out as he had dreamed. He saw that some of his teammates continued to watch his every move, as if waiting for a reason to taunt or reproach him. PSG's results in European tournaments were still uneven. The coaching staff urgently needed to find a formula for success in order to justify the colossal investments. All these factors turned the star's life into an endless show in which he could not find real peace of mind. Then Messi made a decision that shocked his inner circle. He became more open in his statements. In a rare interview, he admitted that he missed Barca and Spain, the atmosphere of the club family. It was a subtle hint, but everyone took it as a signal for further developments. The PSG management was alarmed because they had invested in Messi as the face of the entire project. To hush up the scandal, the club president met with him personally, trying to convince him that he needed to adapt and that any difficulties were temporary. But these conversations no longer found the same response in the soul of the Argentine, who was suffering in the gap between the luxury of his current situation and the longing for the past simplicity. It seemed that even the PSG fans, who had initially embraced Messi as their new idol, began to suspect him of not giving enough. He showed his skills in every match, but many asked, why did he not look as inspired as he did in Barcelona? Where was that smile he used to show, celebrating goals with his teammates? Answering these questions, Lionel realized. His heart still sang when he remembered the Camp Nou, the stands shouting, Messi, Messi, the warm embrace of his hometown. Paris could not give him that feeling of home, despite all the diamonds in its crown. While the football battles were going on, another struggle was unfolding behind Messi's back, a contractual one. It turned out that the agreement with PSG had special conditions for image rights. The club wanted to use the Argentine's image literally everywhere, on billboards, in social networks, in promotional campaigns for partners. Under normal circumstances, Messi would not have objected, because advertising has always been part of the football business. But given all the psychological pressure, he felt like a commodity that belonged not to himself, but to a grandiose financial machine. He began to avoid public events, refused to participate in some filming, and this only gave rise to new gossip and malicious articles in the press. Some wrote that Messi had become a star, others accused him of lack of respect for the club. No one knew the truth, that inside the Argentine there was a continuous conflict between a sense of duty and a desire to find peace. However, fate gives a chance to those who truly believe in their calling. Spring was approaching, and PSG was racing towards the decisive matches in the Champions League. Messi, gathering all his will into a fist, demonstrated his best qualities on the field: filigree passes, cunning strikes, amazing work with the ball. Something like a second wind began in the team. After all, when the best footballer in the world really wants to win, it charges everyone around him. The coach came up with tactical options, in which the trio of Messi, Mbappé, Neymar played like a single mechanism. The stands roared with delight again, and the French tabloids softened their tone, starting to publish materials about the rise of the king. But the most decisive game of the season was to take place in the Champions League semi-final, where PSG faced a formidable opponent. The atmosphere inside the club was tense to the limit. The management wanted not just a victory, but a convincing demonstration of strength. At the same time, the topic of Messi's return to Barcelona arose once again on social networks. It seemed that the entire football world froze in anticipation of when the Argentine would reveal his plans. Messi was silent, fully focused on the decisive match, and when the day of the game arrived, everything came together. The stadium was packed to capacity, the fans were singing non-stop. The cameras were looking for signs of excitement on Messi's face, but he looked collected, as if he knew that today was the day he had to turn this page in his life. The match was tough, the teams were on equal terms. Every time Messi got the ball, several opponents pounced on him, trying to take it away and force him to make a mistake. But in one episode, towards the end of the match, he broke through to the penalty area, got away from the defender, beat the goalkeeper, and sent the ball accurately into the net. The stadium exploded with screams, and Messi himself, filled with emotion, tore off his shirt and raised it to the sky, like in the old days at the Camp Nou, when he dedicated victories to loved ones. It was a goal not just for the club, but also for himself, proof that he is still capable of being the best wherever he plays. PSG reached the final and a wave of jubilation swept across Paris. The team could finally say to all the critics, "We deserve this trophy." But what did Messi himself feel? The joy of victory or homesickness? At the post-match press conference, he looked as if a heavy burden had been lifted from his shoulders for a moment. His smile was sincere and his words were short. He thanked his teammates, the fans, and stressed that the most important thing for him was still to play football with soul and passion. However, he did not say a word about whether he would stay in Paris or not. The season was drawing to a close, and the Argentine was struggling internally. Paris enchanted him with its beauty, breathtaking views, and magical atmosphere of night lights, but at the same time it weighed on him with the feeling that this city would never become his home. Money, fame, new opportunities, all this built a shining wall around him, behind which he often felt lonely and misunderstood. At Barcelona, he had a history that had been built over the years, but here everything had to be built anew, and in a short time frame, when results were demanded of you every day. In the end, Messi made his choice. He decided to negotiate with the club's management and asked for a meeting. It is said that in this private conversation he admitted, "I will always be grateful for the chance to play in Paris, but I feel that my heart is in Barcelona. If fate smiles, I want to return to where I spent most of my life and where I have always been understood without words." The reaction of the PSG president was not reported to the press, but sources claim that Messi's decision did not come as a surprise to him. The project remained grandiose, and without him, of course, the club could move forward, but losing such a star is always a blow to ambitions. Nevertheless, respect for his personality and merits outweighed all financial calculations. Lionel's last days in Paris were spent in mixed emotions. He had already become attached to certain places, a small bakery on the corner where he would sometimes buy croissants and coffee without anyone noticing, a quiet park where he could stroll early in the morning when the city was still asleep. He began to notice that Paris could be more than just a luxurious shop window, but also a city with a soul, where ordinary people lived, in love with art, food, and life. But the memories of Barca, its streets, its stadium, the friends who had remained there were stronger. So Messi closed one chapter and prepared to open another, perhaps the final one in his great career. The story of the luxurious life he led in Paris turned out to be a story of finding oneself in a foreign country, of the conflict between duties and dreams, of the price one has to pay for the right to be called the greatest. Money, contracts, glitter, and status, all this faded when he realized that true happiness comes only from a favorite business, family, and the feeling of being in the right place. These are the values that Lionel Messi remained true to until the very end. And what happened next, when he set foot on Catalan soil again, is another story that is still waiting to be told. But one thing is certain: the greatness of a footballer is determined not only by the number of goals scored, but also by the ability to remain a person who follows the call of his heart, despite any obstacles and temptations. In this story, we saw how difficult it is to remain yourself when there is an ocean of expectations, criticism, and endless demands for perfection around you. But Messi, having gone through temptations and disappointments, proved that behind the curtain of luxury and high-profile titles lives a man who dreams of simple happiness and seeks a path to it in the most difficult circumstances. Thank you for being together until this moment. If you liked it, be sure to like it, subscribe to the channel so as not to miss the next stories, and write your opinion in the comments. Should Messi stay in Paris or return to Barcelona forever? Your participation is very important to us, because it is thanks to you that this story comes to life and acquires new facets. Your likes and comments help us understand that we are moving in the right direction and motivate us to continue telling exciting stories from the world of football and beyond.